Hey guys, I'm Matt Lighty, and this is my video about my starter build, my stage 1 build that I rolled from the Ultimate Build Wheel for 3.20, Sanctum of, I've already forgotten, but Arch Nemesis 4. Anyway, I want to do this video in two parts. This is going to be Explosive Arrow Elementalist one, and we'll do a Forbidden Right one later in the week. Because this is the more important one, because it's the one that you start with and set up your Atlas with. So this build is an Explosive Arrow Elementalist. I've played it before a couple leagues ago. It's a very, very good starter build, and it's a very, very good full stop build. When I say that every single tree for this build looks the same, that is not an exaggeration. It's one of the very rare builds where the deviation for differences between people's builds is fucking maybe 2%. Like, it's super minimal. So that being said, what is the build really? Well, I place totems. Those totems shoot explosive arrows a bunch of times. They build up fuses. When those fuses get to a certain amount, or whenever they detonate, it makes a big old ignite. That's what kills things. We do things like stacking curses and curse effect and multiple curses. This is a fantastic build for this patch because of curses are better than ever against bosses. This build already melts bosses. It is a Atlas setup and all content build. I would say I wouldn't really bother doing Uber Pinnacles. You probably could if you pushed it hard enough, but it just wouldn't be very comfy. You'd probably cap out at around, I don't know, 8 to 10 mil damage, so it's a little wonky for that, but you have no problem doing any Invitation, the Feared, etc. with Height of Hubris on, any favorite on the map, setting up your Atlas, doing all boss farming, all mapping. It's a very easy build. It's also a full life tap build. You don't have to worry about mana, which feels great. And it runs Determination, Grace, and Defiance banner, so it's pretty tanky enough. So yeah, the build is the only, I would say the worst part about this build is the initial leveling pre-lab is pretty jank because you are traveling across the universe. You know, you're going from here all the way to Ancestral Bond, to LE Overload, down to Mage Bane, down to, you know, LE Equilibrium, all the way down to like Ironwood and over here to Watchtowers. You're traveling far, which is the silver lining is, hey, you'll get your stats, you know, all those travel nodes, but it just means your initial, before you get that cruel lab, really it starts to get a little spooky. Once you get that hits always ignite, I would suggest leveling with, like, you could level with like Fireball or whatever until 28, use Armageddon Brand, and then pretty much once you get to 38 and you can use multi-totem, you're pretty much good to start using explosive arrow once you have other keystones. But just, if you don't have like a good fast bow, it kind of feels a little shitty. So that's the tree. And the cool interactions are you are a build that uses LE Equilibrium with a extra exposure from the Elementalist. So how do we trigger the exposure? Well, Explosive Arrow is an interesting skill. It is a 2-stage skill. The initial hit actually does like typeless basic damage. Then the explosion itself does fire damage. So if you were to have, for example, 1 cold damage, right? You have your gloves, your quiver, whatever, your bow even. For this bow I have on this thing has lightning damage. You can have any sort of non-fire damage, so lightning or cold. You have 1 of those damages, right? All you need is 1. It'll apply exposure to the other elementals, plus 25%, plus another 25% because Elementalist. That's how you always have the 50% negative from that. That plus us running 1 to 2 curses. You can always anoint Whispers. I wouldn't travel to the new Whispers. It's a little farther than before. I would just anoint it, just do some Blight, anoint it. Or you can run a Dogery's Ring or a Windscreen Boost. Just getting 2 curses is nice. Otherwise, just having Flammability. You can really get that resistance like negative 100 without even trying too hard. So that's pretty good. And then whenever we crit, we get more elemental damage because the Overload does that. And we're shooting a lot of arrows, so that procs quite often. Ancestral Bond gives us more totems, dot damage, totem stuff. Mage Bane helps us get our spell suppression cap, which is oh so important these days. And then we have more totem damage and quality of life, and totem damage and quality of life, and dot damage, and it's a very straightforward build. Let's quickly go over the equipment. So the only 3 uniques I would really recommend running for gear, we'll talk about jewels in a second, is Died in Dawn, Polaric Devastation, and Ashes. And then I outlined how to get these in the notes section. We'll go over that also in a minute. But basically, those are the only 3 I'd want. I wouldn't bother farming out anything else, and I would only bother farming on Ashes if you're planning on playing the build you transitioned into as the second stage build. Uses it, otherwise, kind of like just get a +1 amulet's fine. You don't need the reservation. The quality is whatever. So it's kind of a moot point. I just want it because I'm going to be playing another build that uses Ashes, and Ashes is good, so why not farm out Ashes? Polaric Devastation is extremely good, covering in Ash, not to be confused with Ashes, is very strong. Daiden's Dawn gives us huge more damage from that ailments dealing faster, the Ignite dealing faster. And then it comes to our really quality of life is Rain of Splinters. Now they just changed how this is acquired. You can only get Rain of Splinters from Valing Crimsons, which is a blessing and a curse. It means, yes, it's deterministic, but we don't know how rare it is, so, you know, up in the air. And a Natural Instinct you don't need, but if you do get one, what you basically do is you plop it right here, and you take those points out and you plop it right there, and it gets you a bunch of goodies. These things are also quite good also, so it gets you even those goodies for, you know, a very efficient cost. And this is only level 89. If you want more points, put them in life, put them in jewel sockets. There's no shortage of any of those or even frenzy charges, so if you want to go to 100, feel free. The skill setups are as such. Your LE explosive arrow setup is totem, explosive, ignite, proliferation. You could swap it for bossing. I would say don't bother. You have more than enough damage in this build, so don't even bother. Deadly elements, burning damage, and life tap. That's right, it's a life tap build. Enjoy it. Our weapon's a +3 bow. It's just, that's all it is. At +3 blow, you can mastercraft on attack speed or fire res, whatever you don't hit. Easy peasy. Aura's running precision, determination, grace, and defiance banner. The obvious ones are the defenses, plus precision is so we don't miss. And also we want to crit every now and then for LE overload, so we can afford it too. Even without Ashes, we still have positive mana, and we're a full life tap build, so we don't need mana. In our body, we just put a hex touch, like a little nice hex touch setup, so it's cursing on hit with frenzy and culling. So for single target, get you that extra curses, extra damage, also get you more frenzy charges, also culls. Why not do it all at once? Life tap and dash for just movement speed, quality of life, cast into the portal because I can't be fucking asked to walk back anywhere. And life tap, combustion, Arcanist brand, flame surge. This is a pretty standard setup for any ignite builds in general. Arcanist brand is going to cast a flame surge, which is going to basically put the ignite's damage as a debuff or as a dot on the ground, also applying combustion's -10 res. So it's just kind of like doubling our damage in single target. So basically the order of operation for single target is you plop down your totems, you hit the target once, maybe you place your Arcanist brand, you hit the target a couple times with frenzy, get your stacks up, and then they'll pretty much just die. Like, it's a little bit of a clicky thing when you're doing boss single target, but normal play you're just running around tapping totems, so very minimal effort there. So yeah, that's the basis of the build. Again, I would level with, like, you know, Fireball and then into Armageddon brand, and then once you could pretty much start getting your totems and your EA. Once you have totem, EA, and ignite proliferation, these three are the big ones. Once you can do those three plus life tap, it should be easily get a 4-link by the time you're 38. I think, yeah, ignite proliferation is 38, right? 38. Let me double check. Pretty sure it's 38. And if you put this at level 1, what does it say? 38. Yep. So level 38. That's when I would start using explosive arrow after your first lab. Get ignite proliferation. That way, life is nice and easy. No problemos. Wouldn't really bother with alt qualities. Would bother with awakens. These are both very good. Don't forget, awaken burning gives +1 gem level now, which is super nice. And the quality on explosive arrow, it's not irrelevant, but wouldn't bother. Just, you know, get yourself level 21. That's more important. So just, you know, val 6 of those without even flipping the gems. For the note section, this is the important part for some people. So these are the 4 big uniques that you want to get, like Ashes, well, Polaric, Diadem, Rain of Splinters are the big ones. Rain of Splinters, we talked about, it's valuable now. That's the only way to get it, is you have to val an uncorrupted Crimson Jewel of any rarity. If you don't have it on your filter and want to put it on your filter, then you can just copy paste this code right here in this whole section. This will show all Crimson Jewels that are not corrupted on your filter, and yeah, makes your life a little easier. Diadem Dawn, I would recommend Gwen because it's a heavy belt, so you should be Gwenning those anyway, as I put there, because you want to get Mage Blood. Or you could Bestiary. Problem is the opposite side of the tree than Gwen. You know, be that as it may. If you want to farm the Wretched card for belt, you could do that also. Probably the worst of the 3 options, but would recommend just doing Expedition for Gwen. Yeah. Polaric Devastation. And then the only way to get it is by doing Black Star. but you can craft the invitation. You want to do at least 70 plus quality. You want to have all the small 2% nodes across the top of the Atlas Passage tree. And you also want the height of Hubris Keystone. If you have these things, the quantity of the map will be over 200 easily, and that does seem to impact the chance of getting the uniques off of the bosses, so enjoy that. In Ashes, nothing to do. It's a 2% drop rate off of Eater of Worlds. Just gotta do Eater. Only part that sucks is Ashes and Polaire come from opposite bosses, so, you know, that's a bummer. But, yeah, that's about it. The build is super piss easy. You just walk around dropping totems. You know, eventually you'll craft yourself a +3 bow. That's also easy. You just roll a bow for +2 gems. Fill a suffix, put on can't roll attack mods, exalt, nothing else to hit but +1 gems. There's your +3 bow. You could farm the porcupine card if you want or something like that. You can just ID any short bows off the ground. That works too. Or just, whatever. And again, the gear is just life suppression, res, chaos res, movement speed, that sort of stuff. Nothing fancy on the quiver. One thing I would note is a funny interaction with Explosive Arrow that I would want to end the video on, because this is kind of the minutia of when talking about these sort of builds is, if you're going to get any amount of additional arrows, what I mean by additional arrows, additional projectiles, is Rain of Splinters. You typically have 1 projectile, right? Okay, Rain of Splinters puts you at 3 projectiles. Say you can also get +1, arrow on your quiver. That may put you at 4 projectiles. What you want to do is always stay at an odd number of projectiles, and I will tell you why. You can be at any amount of projectiles. 3 is the minimum. You can go to 5, but you always want to be at odd numbers, because the way that projectiles work in Path of Exile is, say that this is the enemy. There he is. Make him spooky, right? And this little square is you. You shoot projectiles. The first shot always goes straight if it's odd. Okay? If it's not odd, what happens is, this is how your 2-arrow shot goes, and you're going to miss the target. So as long as you always have an odd number, the amount of extra projectiles are added into the sides, okay? And then they start filling the middle gaps. But that singular one always goes straight and always hits your target. So as long as you maintain an odd number of projectiles, it always doesn't feel fucked. But the second you start getting an even number, you're going to be whiffing sometimes single target enemies, because they're literally splitting down the middle. So that's that. If you have any questions about Explosive Arrow, feel free to ask, but I'll put this stuff in the description below. I kind of just have it memorized because it's not a whole lot to memorize. If you're going to struggle, it's going to be probably between level 1 and level 40, and after that it really should be smooth sailing. And once you pick up your res, or you want to pick up your shock, you're getting nothing but damage after that. The whole tree is damage, and you're just going to enjoy life walking around, dropping a totem, watching something die, dropping a totem, watching something die. It's a lot of fun. It's a very satisfying build. So good luck out there if you're playing Explosive Arrow, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Lighty out. Bye bye.